Hi everybody, it's Andrea from Autoimmune Strong. I am so happy to see you this morning. Sorry you get me all kind of like gym hair, don't care, because I just came back from the gym and haven't gotten a chance to shower yet. So, but I figure since we're talking about exercise here, then you guys might understand. So we're going to talk about exercise today. First things first. For those of you watching, say hi. Write something in the comments so I know you're there. That makes me feel really good that you guys are watching. And I'm just going to talk because I have a lot of things to talk about. The topic of today's Facebook Live is the Goldilocks Principle, how to find the right amount of balance of exercise for your body, to find that sweet spot. So we're going to talk about that. As I talk, I want to hear your questions. Tell me your stories. If the things that I'm saying relate to you in some way, tell me about it. The more you guys tell me about your stories, the more I can help you. Hi, Christy. Thanks for saying hi. I'm glad you're watching. So let's dive right in. You guys all know the Goldilocks story, but I'm going to refresh your memory just in case you don't have small kids and you don't talk about it all the time like I do. You know, Goldilocks is the little girl who goes into the home of the three bears, and she sits in the father's chair and she finds it's too big, and she sits in the mother's chair and she feels like it's too hard, and then she fits in the little bear's chair and it's just right. And that's what I'm trying to get you to find when it comes to exercise, that just right place where you get the benefits of exercise, but you don't have the drawbacks of exercising while you're having an autoimmune disease. We're special. We have to exercise in a special kind of way, right? So let me ask you this as we get started. Like, have you guys felt that bonk? Have you gotten to a place where you have exercised too much for your body and you have, I call it the bonk, where like you feel good, you've exercised, you feel good, you exercise, and then all of a sudden you like hit a wall and you crash and it looks like you're exhausted or you have flu-like symptoms. Some people feel nauseous. Some people get super duper sore and achy in their body. It looks different for different people, that bonk. Have you experienced this? Is this something that has happened to you in your life? I can tell you that it has happened to me many a time, and not just during the period of my like sick time where I was undiagnosed and things had gotten really out of control, but even now I can get really excited about a workout and be like, oh, I'm feeling really good, I'm just gonna keep pushing and I'm gonna do a little more, and then I get that, and then a day or two later or even a week later I get that bonk. And even today I was at the gym, and for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know I'm struggling with a broken/bruised ankle. So I haven't been able to move my lower body in a really long time. I've been doing a lot of upper body work. And my lower body is weak. And today was the first day I went back to doing a little bit of lower body stuff. And like my brain is just going. It's like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. This feels so good. I want to keep going. And then my other brain, the other side of the smart part of my brain is like, Andrea, if you push this, you are going to feel so much pain. So stop. Like, be happy with the fact that you could do what you could do today, and stop right here. And that means if you stop right here, that means you'll be able to come back tomorrow and you'll be able to do more. Whereas if you don't stop here, you could be out for like a week. So even I, and I say even I, like I'm not perfect. I make mistakes in this all the time, but I'm the one who's teaching you guys about it. So I like to think that I have it all put together, but no, it's like, it's hard. It's hard to tell yourself that too much is too much, especially when it feels good at the time. That's the thing with over exercise that's so confusing, is that when you over exercise, it doesn't necessarily mean you feel bad, like immediately. In fact, you could feel awesome immediately because you're having this like adrenaline rush from the endorphins that you get from exercise. Gudrun is saying she's been there often. Yeah, I know, right? Like this is a common thing and this happens. And because we don't necessarily know about it, we're not attuned to it, number one. And number two, even if we do know about it, it's hard to read our bodies because these bunks, these exercise-induced symptom flare-ups that I keep talking about, they don't happen right away. It's not like, if I go to the gym today and I decide I'm going to do an extra 10 minutes, and then I come home and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I feel awful. It's not how it happens. It's so sneaky. It takes time for it to like sneak up on you. And for me, sometimes the flare-ups can come a week later or 2 weeks later. So that means that when I go to the gym or I do my exercises at home and I push hard, like the next day I'm like, oh, I pushed hard, so tomorrow I should push hard again because it felt okay. I felt okay. And then the next day you push hard and maybe you even push a little harder because you're like, oh, it's been a couple days and I feel great. And then like 2 weeks later, you hit that wall, you get that bunk, and for me it looks like I can't get out of bed. Like I'm done. I can barely get through my day. Does this sound like you guys? I know Gudrun said that it sounds like her, but it doesn't sound like you too. Tell me your stories. I want to know what's happened to you. How long does it take you to feel that bonk? Are you even aware that perhaps that bonk could be coming from exercise? Because that is something that is so surprising to people when I talk about this, is they're like, oh my gosh. I was talking to a woman yesterday who was saying, she's been spinning every single day for the last 3.5 years, and she went to her functional medicine doctor because she just has been so exhausted and feeling like total yuck. And her functional medicine doctor was like, have you considered that it could be your exercise that's making you feel this way? And she was like, light bulb, had no idea, right? And that functional medicine doctor is pretty special, but not many experts, not many doctors, not many personal trainers, not many fitness experts, they don't know about this for people with autoimmune disease. So, oh my gosh, Laura is saying she's home from work today for this exact same reason. Laura, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're watching because I'm going to teach you how to start listening to your body so that you can avoid this bonk and find that Goldilocks sweet spot. And Kathy is saying that this sounds true for her and that she didn't realize that the flare-up is from exercising. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, Kathy. That's why I'm here, because so many people experience this and have no idea that this is the problem. Because we hear all the time, right, that exercise is good for us, like, period, end of sentence. Exercise is good for you. Nobody tells you that exercise has potential downsides. So I'm glad you're all here. Valerie is saying, oh, hang on, I gotta press this button to see more. That she's always thinking about paying attention to what kind of exercises she's doing in order to avoid this. Good for you, Valerie. Then you are in the right place listening, but it sounds like you have a good sense of what your body needs. And that is hard to accomplish. So, and I'm telling you, I'm the expert here and I have trouble accomplishing it myself. So, bravo to you if you've got it figured out. I'm thrilled. Christy is saying every time she tries to get back into exercise, she feels like she's doing really well and then she hits a wall. Yeah, and that happens, Christy. You are not alone in this at all, because it's that mechanism of like, you do a little bit and you're like, oh, I feel good. So you do a little more and you do a little more. And because that bonk, that flare up doesn't happen for a little while later, or maybe it happens and you don't even realize, you're like, oh, my kids just brought home the flu and so I have the flu. Or, oh, my, I must have done too much at work and so now I'm exhausted. We blame a lot of other things in our life, but sometimes it is exercise. In my Facebook Live from 2 weeks ago, I talked about stress and the mechanism of stress and how when we have a lot of excess stress in our lives, our threshold for handling more stress is lower. And autoimmune disease thrives on stress, right? The more stress we have, the higher our inflammation is, and the more it aggravates our conditions. And so when we add exercise on top of it, on top of whatever other stress we have in our life, and I'm not just talking about like personal stress, although that is really an important part, but I also talk about, environmental stress, like if it's springtime and you have allergies, or if you live in a house with mold, or if you're recovering from an illness, or if you're pregnant, or if you're, I don't know, there's like a million other things that can cause stress on your body besides from exercise. But if you put exercise on top of that, then you are at a much higher risk of these flare-ups, which is why we have to be really, really careful about how much exercise we do and how we build up. Deanne is saying that sometimes she exercises and then she can't get out of bed the next morning. And Christy is saying on the days that she's active at the gym, I'm going to rephrase what you said, Christy, because this is really good. She's saying that she makes choices about what she does and doesn't do on the days that she goes to the gym. So on the days that she goes to the gym, she doesn't go overboard cleaning her house that day. She chooses, I'm going to exercise today, and when I'm not exercising, I'm going to clean my house, and that way I can manage the stress load on my body and be able to continue forward with my exercise. Christy, thank you for that. Really great advice and lead into exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Like, that's exactly it. Is that when we're thinking about our stress load. Okay, let me back up for a minute and tell you this. The amount of exercise that you can do is different, most likely, from the amount of exercise that everybody else can do. Like, what you're going to hear from me today is not a one-size-fits-all, here's your exercise plan, today you do X, tomorrow you do X. It doesn't work like that. And I wish it did. It would make my job so much easier if I could just tell you what to do. But the reality is that we are all individuals. We have different diseases, we have different ages, we are different backgrounds, we have different stress loads, we have different levels of exercise, like prior to getting diagnosed. We are different in a million different ways. And so each of us are going to have a different experience with exercise. And here's the kicker. Each of us individually are going to have a different experience of exercise on different days, different weeks, different years, different time in our lives. Again, because of stress loads. So, there are going to be times in your life where you're under more stress. There are going to be times in your life where you're under less. That's life. That's the condition of being human. So, the first thing you have to do is understand all the things in your life that causes you stress. And I want to go back to Christy's point, which is really great, which is for her, and I know this, you are not alone, Christy, in this, because I hear about housework all the time. And I experience it myself. I have a pile of dishes sitting in my sink because I was exhausted from my day yesterday and chose not to do those dishes. I chose to leave them until I felt better. That's an agreement I have with my husband. He can either choose to do the dishes himself if they bother him, or if he wants me to do them, then he can hang out and wait until I'm ready to do them. Most of the time he does them himself. He's he likes things neat, and I don't really care. So, but sometimes he'll let them sit, and so they are sitting right now. I got off track. The point is that things like housework, we take for granted. We don't think about that as a stress load, but it is. It's very physical, right? It's a lot of bending and picking up, and if you're like me and you've got small children, you've got Legos everywhere, making beds can be so hard. I struggle with trying to get the bed sheets over the corners. That's work, right? So when we are having, so the first thing I advise you to do to find this Goldilocks sweet spot is to take a blank piece of paper and write down everything in your life that you do that causes you stress. Woo, that list is long. Relationships, housework, shuttling kids around, emotional work that you do to take care of various people. Because I know all of you are taking care emotionally of so many people. That's what we do, we give. So we have to recognize that when we give, we also deplete. So we need to build ourselves back up. We need to fill up that gas tank. We need to go to the gas station. So on the other side of the list, I recommend writing down the list of things that replenish your gas tank, that give you or remove your stress. Karen, I saw that you said that you're sorry you missed the first 10 minutes. Don't worry about it. This is going to be on replay here on the Facebook page. So you can go back afterwards and watch the first 10 minutes and you'll catch up there. So we're talking about stress loads. And I know you're like, wait, why aren't you talking about exercise? But if we don't understand the amount of stress we're under already, it's going to be hard for us to figure out how much exercise we can do on top of that. So on days where we have less things to do, less busyness, you can fit in a longer exercise. Okay, I'll give an example. So I was talking to one of my members this morning, one of the Autoimmune Strong members, who is a nurse. And so she has long shift hours. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm working on my hydration. It's something that I forget about sometimes, and it's really essential. Okay, so this person is a nurse. She works these really long hours. Her job is very physical and very depleting. She wants to get stronger in order to be able to do this work. So she emailed me and said, what exercise videos in Autoimmune Strong should I be doing on the days when I go to work? And here's what I said to her. I said, actually, I would advise that you don't exercise on the days that you go to work. On the days that you don't go to work is when you should watch the videos and practice them. Learn the moves. Because a lot of those moves can be done throughout the course of your day. Like I'm abdominal bracing right now. I can do it right here. I can stand on one leg while washing dishes. I can do a few squats before I sit down into my office chair. There's like lots of ways we can incorporate various exercises into our daily life. So if you take the time when you're not under a ton of duress and you practice those exercises, then when you're in your busy day, you can just kind of like throw them in there. Like, oh, I'm going to sit down on my office desk right now. I'm going to do 5 squats before I do that. Done. Like, there's your exercise for the day. And you didn't do too much to deplete your stress load or deplete your energy load, right? And then on the day, on like a weekend day, carve out some time, watch the next video. And then the foam rolling is always there for you. You can come home at the end of the day, at the end of a long day, and foam roll, and it's nourishing. And you're like improving your strength and your flexibility. So these are the ways I want you to start thinking about this. Is like, we have this very definitive idea of exercise. Like, I must carve out X amount of gym time. I must carve out X amount of, I must get a workout in, right? This is a very like modern way of thinking about fitness. And I'm encouraging you to think outside the box a little bit. Think about how you can incorporate movement into, or strengthening movement, specific strengthening movement into your everyday life. Because not all movement is created equal. If you're doing housework, you're like, I am moving, right? That's movement. But it's not strengthening house movement, because if you are dealing with weak muscles and poor posture, when you go and do that housework, you're just compounding those weak muscles and poor posture. When you're doing strengthening exercises, they are specifically working those muscles that are underdeveloped and working to get them more developed so that you can have better posture and you can feel better when doing your housework. right? So this is how you start to find the sweet spot. The first thing you want to do is get to a place where you can pick an exercise, something that you're going to do consistently. Autoimmune Strong is designed for this, but it doesn't have to be Autoimmune Strong. I want you to decide how much exercise you think you can do. Then I want you to quarter it. And I want you to start there. And when you start there, now the goal here is that that's not where you're going to stay. This is where you're going to start, at that quarter of what you think you can do safely without flare-up. You start at the quarter. You do the quarter for 2 weeks consistently, 3 weeks even. If you can get through that amount of exercise consistently for 2 to 3 weeks and you don't have a flare-up, and you don't get sick, and you don't feel like crap, and you don't get exhausted, and perhaps you feel more energy, and perhaps you sleep better, and you start feeling better, then you know that that's your baseline. That's your starting point. Okay? Then you can add a little bit more. But the first thing we have to do is make sure that we're safe first. And so a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, this feels like nothing. I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, yes, you are. You're finding your baseline so that you can do more safely. Because let me tell you some real talk right here, is that the exercise that you do that causes the flare-up is not getting you stronger. It's not working. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because then you have a setback. And then you have to start from the beginning all over again. And then you push yourself, and then you have a setback, and then you have to start all over again, and it just continues. So you have to start at this lighter, lower place. Make sure you can do it safely. And then you can start adding. Karen, I'm glad you said that this makes sense to you. Gudrun, I'm glad you think this is great advice. Christy, you too. Like, I hope this is teaching you something, because if I could just tell you, you go out to the gym, you do X amount of work, and then next week you do X amount of work, it just doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that you are in a safe place first. And then when you build upon it, I'm not saying like you say, okay, I'm going to go do, for example, I'm going to go do the elliptical. So you might want to start with 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or you start with abdominal bracing for 2 minutes, 5 seconds sometimes. And then after 2 to 3 weeks, you can say, okay, I'm going to build up to like 30 seconds. And that's your goal. And then if you can do that 30 seconds comfortably, or if you can do the elliptical for 10 minutes comfortably, then maybe you can add a little more and a little more. But I would keep those increments really, really small, because all of a sudden, if you have that flare up, then you're back to square one, and it did you no good. Slow and steady, small increments to keep you in that Goldilocks sweet spot. And I'm telling you, this is harder work than any burpee. Like, it's so hard. I know lots of you are like me, who are former athletes and former gym rats, and like just want to feel like you're back in your old body again. And so when you go and you move, you push yourself, because your brain tells you that this isn't enough. I want you to fight that voice in your brain that's telling you that this isn't enough, because it's where you are. And you have to be really honest with yourself about where you are. And that's that's hard work right there, because there's a lot of stuff we don't want to deal with. There's a lot of stuff that's causing us stress that we don't want to deal with. A lot of times we don't want to admit that things are tough, or that we're not where we used to be. And I raised my hand. I was complaining and crying to my husband when I hurt my foot because I had just gotten to like a new level of building on my baseline. And now I have to start all over again. But if I started back at that higher level, I would be nowhere. So instead of whining and complaining about where I was, I have to acknowledge about where I am and work from there. So I am telling you guys this because I need to hear it. I am telling myself because I need to hear it. Karen is saying, I always beat myself up because 2 minutes is my max and I collapse. Yeah, Karen, she's saying, now I know that this is normal. 2 minutes might be too much for you. And I know that sounds like crazy, but it might be too much for you. A lot of Autoimmune Strong members start with 5 seconds a day. Because 5 seconds of the right exercise is better than 5 minutes of the wrong exercise that will cause you a flare-up. And I know we've been sort of dancing around this idea of cardio because I know a lot of people love cardio. I want to tell you, I'm going to do like a whole segment on cardio that's coming up, but I'll give you a little sneak peek, which is that if you are someone who is constantly in a flare-up or in this exercise-induced flare-up cycle, cardio is not your friend. And again, this is like real talk, tough love. I know it's not what you want to hear. And as a long-distance runner for like my entire life, I'll tell you, it was a tough pill to swallow. Cardio is not your friend when you're in this flare-up cycle. Because cardio ramps up inflammation super fast. It adds a lot of stress to your body. So what you want to do is work on these strengthening exercises first. Get your body to be stronger, have better posture, and have better endurance. And then you can start building the cardio back in. I have a woman who has been in my small group coaching class now for like 6 months. She's now on month 7. When she started with Autoimmune Strong, she couldn't walk to her mailbox without having a flare-up. That was like the most work she could do. She was exhausted. She's got chronic fatigue syndrome, or otherwise known as ME. And she now goes for like 2 to 3 mile walks a couple times a week. So I'm not telling you this to tell you that it will never happen for you. I'm telling you this to give you hope that it will happen for you if you do it right. But you have to be honest with yourself about where you are. You have to find your baseline. And if you do that quarter advice and it's still too much, then quarter that. Like, there's no ego here. Take your ego out of the game. Get rid of whatever you think you should be doing and listen to what your body is telling you that it needs. Because your body and your brain are not always connected. And the only way your body can communicate to you is through pain and exhaustion. And so if you're experiencing that is your body telling you that something isn't right, that you're not listening and you're pushing it too hard. That's your body's way of being like, hello, I'm here, pay attention to me, right? And it's so hard because our brain is like, oh my God, so many things to do, so much I want to do. And the body's like, hello, but it's too much. So you have to listen to your body. Otherwise, you end up in bed. Because that's where I end up. Gosh, so many comments. This is so exciting. Kathy is saying that this was teaching her because she never thought about it like this. Because if she doesn't get a lot of exercising done, she feels like a wimp. Oh my gosh, Kathy, thank you for sharing that. I feel like everybody on here can identify with that, or maybe most of us can. I feel like that's the heart of the issue, is that if we feel like we haven't done enough and that we are lazy. We talk to ourselves like that. You're not lazy. You're not a wimp. In fact, you are extra super duper strong if you're doing it this way. Because as I'm telling you, it is hard. I was at the gym today, and you guys might wonder, like, if I have an at-home exercise program, why am I at the gym? I've talked about this before. I do work out at home, and I post a lot of those videos on my Instagram stories. But I also work from home, so sometimes I like to get out of my home and go to the gym so that I get out of my workspace and I get some brain space. For me, that works really well. It hasn't always worked really well. There have been times where I've been too exhausted to drive to the gym, and so working out at home was my only option. Right now, that's not my case, and I like going out into the world and seeing people and not being in my home 24/7, because otherwise I feel like a recluse. So today at the gym, the hardest thing for me was to stop. That was actually harder than the whole workout, was to stop. But I stopped, and I'm proud of myself for that, because now I have the energy to talk to you guys, and I have the energy to finish my work, go get my kids, shuttle them around, do the pile of dishes I was telling you about. I got stuff to do. So I can't be flat out because of the exercise I did. Like, that doesn't work in my life. And I'm sure it doesn't work in your life either. So Tracy's saying, I've gotten exhausted just getting ready to exercise. Yes, yeah, that happens. That's why I love abdominal bracing as a first exercise. So if you haven't seen that exercise, there are two places you can go. One is you can start with the Get Autoimmune Strong program. Go to www.getautoimmunestrong.com, or you can go there and join my workshop where I teach you the abdominal bracing exercise video for free. I like to start with that exercise because it's something you don't have to like get ready to exercise to do. I'm doing it right now. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You can do it while you're lying in bed. Like, I'm someone who can't get out of bed. I don't pop out of bed. I lie in bed and like kind of laze for a couple of minutes, or like 20 before I get out of bed. And I will do my abdominal bracing in bed. So if I do nothing else, I've gotten my core stronger. I'm seriously doing it right now. For all of you members who know what I'm talking about, try doing it as you're sitting here watching. There's your workout. Done. So again, like, workouts don't have to be workouts. They don't have to be specifically carved out moments where you put on certain clothes and you go somewhere. You can do strengthening exercises throughout your day. So if that's something that you're interested in, Autoimmune Strong is for you. And go to my website, check it out. I think you'll really like it. Angel is saying that she does everything she can. She pushes herself to the limit. She was walking and going to Zumba class twice a week. She felt fantastic, fabulous, and happy. And now she feels sad and embarrassed because she can't get out of bed for days. Oh my gosh, don't feel embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. You did nothing wrong. Let me tell you this again. You did nothing wrong. Your body was just telling you that it was too much. So step one is to look at the stress that you have in your life and use that as a barometer of how much you can do. If you're high, if you've got a lot of other stressful things going on in your life, you need to dial down the exercise. If your stress is, and you also want to probably look at your life and see if there's some unnecessary stress factors that you can remove. Okay? 2 is match your exercise to your stress levels. If you're having a really stressful day, maybe all you want to do is foam roll, or all you want to do is a few minutes of abdominal bracing. Keep it simple. But if your day isn't that busy and you feel like you can handle a little more, like on a weekend, watch an Autoimmune Strong video, learn the movements, carve out that time when things are slower. Make decisions for the long term. Okay? So I've given you guys a lot of advice here. I want to know how it works for you. So you can email me at Andrea@getautoimmunestrong.com. You can Facebook message me. You can find me on this page. Tell me how things changed for you after watching this Facebook Live. I hope that I've given you some insight into your body. What your job is now is to go home and figure out what this looks like for you. Because as I said, it's super individual. That Goldilocks sweet spot is different for everybody. So, one of the things, I'm going to give you a super secret. One of the things I'm working on right now is a journal that will help you track all this stuff. That's going to be available for Autoimmune Strong members in March. Fingers crossed. We're working on it now. That will help you keep track of all this. But in the meantime, think about it. Think about your exercise, and if it's putting you over the edge, put your ego aside and think about meeting your body where it's at. I know it's hard. I had to do it today. It was awful. But I'm proud of myself. I still got an exercise in, and I feel stronger. And I'm going to be able to go back tomorrow because I said to stop today. So I will leave you guys with that message. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful that you took time out of your day to come watch this. And for those of you who are not members and are interested in becoming members, there will be a link in the comments. So you can just click it and learn all about it. Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you next Monday here, same time, same place. We're going to be talking about something different. Bye.